and yeah, there's a lot going on. And Hetal's been sitting there patiently nodding her head. I'm sure she's got something to weigh in with here. So Hetal, the floor is yours.
I was actually enjoying the conversation and the input that Kaushal and Julie provided. I was actually writing notes down, so lots to learn. So no, I work more on the field base. I'm a little bit more closer to patients and providers, right, from the medical affairs perspective. And I agree with what Kaushal and Juliana mentioned about IP and this patent dance. Oftentimes the reference product's patent has expired years and the biosimilars are not brought to the market. And it's often 3 years, 4 years, or even longer. Sometimes we don't know just because the drugs and the biosimilar manufacturers and the reference manufacturers are just caught in this patent litigations. And if we can get started early on these patent litigation conversations, it could bring so much valuable medicines at the hands of these providers, at the hands of these patients that do need them. And talking about IP, talking about patent litigation is going to be important in the upcoming years. We know that in the next 6 or 7 years, a lot of biologics are going to come off patent. It's going to be some of the big players in the market. And not only that, we also have some drugs that are orphan drugs. We have some cell therapies, some gene therapies. They are coming off patent. How do you start looking at the IP discussions around these kind of drugs as their biosimilars or their similar do come to the market? And ultimately, it comes down to how much the patients can utilize this, how much the provider has the freedom to choose these different drugs that are available over there. Oftentimes when I speak with a provider, they don't know if the drug is approved. If it's approved, is it available? If it's available, is it available on their formulary? It's not available. So there are a lot of questions that start, the root of these questions start right from initiation, which is the patent discussion that both of these panelists brought up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting, and I want to go in that direction here. I want to ask a question around modalities before we go to our first polling question for the audience, because it's an interesting juxtaposition or equation, I think, between those modalities and the market, I guess, appetite for specific modalities and the decisions that are being made at Kaushal's level around, well, what's worth pursuing? Like what should we be litigating or protecting patents around? So I want to learn a little bit more about that, Hetal, and I'll start with you, and then I'd like to get Julie's perspective on this, because as the leader of the forum, I'm sure she has exposure to a whole lot of developers. But are you noticing any trends around the modalities that are most readily being considered for biosimilar development as we look at that sort of 10-year horizon?
Absolutely. So as Juliana said, the FDA right now has so many biosimilars under development. It is a great opportunity right now for the biosimilar manufacturers to come into the market and induce competition, have a free market competition here. And not only in oncology, we've seen oncology as the therapeutic area that has the most uptake and the most rebates or uptake will be seen in oncology. But in the next coming years, many other modalities, many other therapeutic areas is one area where biosimilar manufacturers will be exploring for that. And at that point, it is important to reinstate and reinforce the comfort and confidence that FDA has laid down in the approval process of these biosimilars. Just because we are doing a lot more analytical analysis and functional analysis, we have doesn't mean that the science is less rigorous. We need to look into the confidence and the comfort that the FDA approval process for these different biosimilars bring to the market. Again, as I said, it's going to be important as we're looking at different therapeutic areas, orphan therapies, gene therapies, cell therapies. There are going to be therapeutic areas where there have been no biosimilars today. For example, in the respiratory space, there have been no biosimilars today. how are we going to look at those markets, and how do we instill, education and awareness, to look at the formulary management, to look at the PBMs, is going to be very important in the next coming few years.